What's up? Lately, I have been reading a ton of books about metaphysics, physics, evolutionary biology, just really geeking out on all the fun shit. I don't read any fiction books, all nonfiction. Sometimes I do autobiographies. But it reminds me, I was at a party. One of my friends, he asked me, can I prove that God exists? I thought that was an interesting question. Can I prove that God exists? I mean, can I scientifically prove that God exists? So if that's the question, then the short answer is no, I cannot scientifically prove that God exists. But that's okay, because I cannot scientifically prove a ton of things. I don't know how much a pound of ethics weighs, and I've never put love into a beaker, right? Most of our experience in life is not a matter of science. The most important questions in life and the way we live our life is more of a philosophical question. Think of somebody that you really, really love in your life. Now, I want you to prove to me that you actually love them. And you'll say, well, scientifically prove? I can't scientifically prove that I actually love them. Now, you might go down the road and say, well, I could do a brain scan when I'm thinking about this person, looking at their pictures, and my brain will activate differently, much differently, when I'm thinking about this person or looking at a picture of this person compared to looking at a picture of fucking Adolf Hitler or a complete stranger. And that is correct. Your brain will activate differently. The question is, can you prove that you love that person? Because your brain might activate exactly the same way for money or for pizza, right? But are you willing to die for money? Are you willing to die for pizza? Are you willing to sacrifice yourself for pizza or for a good movie that you saw? So yes, your brain scan is going to show how your brain, or how all of your serotonin and dopamine levels and actually all this stuff, how it reacts. It's going to explain what's going on when you think about the person you love. But that is not proving that you love the person, right? Because all these questions, what is the meaning of life? Where do I go when I die? Why should I even be ethical? All these questions you cannot scientifically prove. You cannot perform a study. These are all philosophical questions, i.e., is there a God? Now you might think, well, there's a God of the gaps, and in the past, we've always inserted God when we couldn't explain something, and then later on, we were able to explain it. We realized we didn't need God. Back in the day, tribes used to think that lightning came from God, but now we know scientifically how lightning works and where it's actually coming from. There's not gods in heaven just shooting lightning bolts down. We have a scientific explanation. Therefore, we don't need God because science explains lightning. The reason that is incorrect is because science explains a lot of things. Science explains exactly the way my Mercedes operates, the way it runs. Science can fix my Mercedes. Now, because science can explain my Mercedes and how to fix it and how it operates, does that mean that there's no longer a need for the CEO of Mercedes? For a better example, as Dr. John Lennox talks about, the Ford Model T, the very first car that ever existed. We know exactly how internal combustion works, how the engine works, how everything operates because of science. Now, does that mean that there's no need for Henry Ford, the creator of the Ford Model T? See, it's categorical there. Saying we know how to explain a creation doesn't negate that there is a creator of the creation. It's a different category. Let's do a thought experiment. Let's take a look at the Grand Canyon. And how did this Grand Canyon come to be? What created the Grand Canyon? Well, we look at our uniform, repeated experience, and we know that over time, water causes erosion on rocks. And we can test it on rocks right now in a laboratory to prove that water causes erosion for hard surfaces, for soils, for sediments, for hard rocks. So what we can do is we can assert that and say, you know what? Then the Colorado River must have created the Grand Canyon. That's the only causal agent that we know that erodes rocks. So therefore, it would have had to been the Colorado River. So now think of something like the Rosetta Stone, which is a stone we found however long ago we found this thing. And it was written language. Or think about Mount Rushmore. Mount Rushmore, you can go out west, you can see 4 presidents, don't ask me who they are, and their faces are carved into the mountain. This is referred to as Mount Rushmore. Now, let me ask you, if you were to see that, would you think that erosion caused this? Do you think that over thousands and thousands and millions of years, the water eroded perfect faces of the President of the United States into this rock. No, the first thing that would come to mind is this created by man. We created this. To be more broad, an intelligent mind created this because it's this complex information and it is specific, complex, specified information. The same with the Rosetta Stone. The Rosetta Stone is communicating information to us. Whenever information is being communicated, there's an intelligent mind. So where am I going with this? DNA. Stephen Meyer talks about this in Signature in the Cell. This is like a 600-page book, beautiful book. It's sitting right there on my shelf, just been staring at me for an entire year. He wrote this about 10 years ago. But DNA has a signature inside each and every one of us. And this DNA performs a function, much like computer code, according to Bill Gates. And this function tells our body how to operate. There's information, specified, complex information that's communicating a function. Now, what do we know about specified, complex information? Where does this come from? It comes from an intelligence. We have never seen complex, specified information come from random, undirected, blind chemical process over a long period of time. We have never seen this. It would be bad science to assume that that's how it came about. It's correct to assume that it came from some form of intelligence, because when we use the law of uniformity and we look at uniform repeated experience, where does information come from? Where does computer code come from? Who created all the code on your computer? Was it an accident? Was it random, unblind chemical process? Or was there an intelligent mind that created that code? As you begin to look at the code in our DNA, it's far more complex than computer code. In fact, Stephen Meyer talks about the code is so complex. Their 13.8 billion years of existence is not enough time to even create 2 nucleotides just through a random process. This is what's referred to as a combinatory problem. It's having to randomly pick a series of numbers like you have a lock on your bike and you have to guess the combination over time. But imagine a combination with hundreds of thousands of characters and you have to guess the exact one. So you got to try every single one randomly and blind. You have to try every single one to get the DNA correctly so it performs a function. If it's not correct, the DNA doesn't work. It doesn't perform a function. So Dr. Stephen Myers talks about one of his colleagues who runs a mathematical simulation and found out that there is not enough time in the existence of the universe of everything to create a couple nucleopeptides, a couple of amino acids. It's not enough time, let alone to create everything that we know of the universe, all matter, space, and energy. That amount of time doesn't exist. It's not possible. Statistically, evolution is absolutely improbable to create DNA in the human body. So to answer the question, no, I cannot scientifically prove that God exists. Science is very narrow and it's very limited. And we don't go through our life saying that if we can't scientifically prove something, then it doesn't exist. Imagine, can you scientifically prove that if you can't scientifically prove something, it doesn't exist? Can you scientifically prove that statement? These are philosophical questions. Science doesn't play a role in these. Now, science can provide an inference to the best explanation, i.e. using science to look at DNA to then make an inference, right? This is one of the bigger problems that I've been reading about and noticing is that scientists are fantastic scientists, but they're horrible philosophers. You see, we need philosophers and scientists who work together. Scientists can perform all the beautiful experiments that they're doing, take that information and give it to the philosophers and say, what does this mean? Because science doesn't explain meaning. It doesn't answer the burning questions that we all have. Why are we even here in the first place? Science does not answer these questions. When you're spending time with your family, science cannot prove that you love your family. When you're going on a date, have you ever been on a scientific date? When you ordered your food, did you bring a scientific kit and test the food to make sure there was no arsenic in your food? The chef didn't poison you? No, you trusted it based on a uniform repeated experience. That it's a reputable restaurant. People told you about it. You used your common sense and you thought through things. You absolutely did not use science to come to that conclusion. Your entire life revolves around philosophy. We create things using science and we understand processes and the way things work using science, but science cannot answer the most important questions that we have in our life. Thanks for watching. If you like this type of content, give it a thumbs up and let me know in the comment section below. If you want to support this channel, consider subscribing for more free content just like this.